Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I think it's live. Is it live? It
Don't
looks
know.
live. It's live.
It's live.
Yay.
We're live.
Hi, Gigo.
Hi. How
Yeah,
you? How you
doing
doing?
great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to see you. It's good to have you in the office.
Yeah. And I love what you. I love what you done with the place.
Thanks. So, do you remember where we left off last week?
Yes, I do. We left off with the Dirty Dozen.
The Dirty Dozen. I think you say it like that because you know you're not part of it, huh?
No, I'm in the Clean 15. Totally different gang.
Yeah, that's right. So, speaking of Dirty Dozen, do you know what they are? Do you know what it means to be in the Dirty Dozen?
I think it means something about what's left on your skin and that you then get eaten. But I need help. Can you
Okay,
tell me more?
sure. Yeah, so let's unpack that a little bit. So, by the way, Dirty Dozen and Clean 15, if you haven't heard of them yet, these are the fruits and vegetables that are tested by the EWG every year based on USDA data. So, this is all very, properly tested. It's very scientific. And they're looking at the toxic residues in fruits and vegetables. So, out of conventional fruits and vegetables, 90% of citrus that is conventional shows a residue of chemicals from fertilizers and pesticides, fungicides, and other herbicides. And 70% of all conventional produce has traces or residues from these chemicals.
Whoa. So
How about
wait a
that?
second. What is EWG?
Oh, thank you. So the EWG is the Environmental Working Group. And there's a link here as part of this Wellness Wednesday talk where you can actually get the full report. And you can also download a nice little shopper's guide. It's a little list of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. Okay. So, and these are fruits and vegetables only. So we're looking at fresh produce here. But of course, when we are considering toxic residue, we want to look beyond fruits and vegetables as well. So we'll talk about that at the end, okay?
Excellent.
So back to these fruits and vegetables, it's really important to know which ones are the cleanest even when they're conventional, because then we can, figure out our budget and know that
Mhm.
okay, maybe cabbage is not that bad if we get it conventionally. And same thing for avocados. Sometimes we can't even find organic avocados, right? So is it safe to eat avocados that are conventional? Absolutely.
Yay!
So a lot of the items that have thicker skins that are not part of what we eat tend to do well.
Hmm.
And then some of the hardier vegetables too that don't need to be applied too many pesticides to. So in that Dirty Dozen, we have at the very top is strawberries. So you can imagine where strawberries, when they get sprayed, they really soak all that in, and there's nothing we can do, right? We can't. Washing is one thing, but even in these tests, when they are testing these foods, they are washing. They're preparing as if we were getting ready to eat them, and then they test the toxic residue. So this is not just picked and still having, debris from the dirt, from the soil.
Hmm.
So strawberries are at the top, and then next to it is spinach and kale. So kale is part of the cruciferous family, and we used to think like these hardier vegetables, along with cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower, were really safe. But although that's true for cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower, it is no longer true for kale. They have
Hmm.
found up to 20 different pesticides, including DCPA, which is a chemical that's now banned in Europe because they have found links with, possible carcinogen and other concerns there. Some of these chemicals are also hormone disruptors and things like chlorpyrifos, which is one that we find very heavily in peppers, bell peppers, and hot peppers.
Hmm.
That is actually really bad for a child's developing brain,
Oh no.
which is something that you're really good for.
Ah.
That's really bad for. And so I don't know about you, but here at home, my son eats bell peppers like they're candy. He loves them. We have them all the time. And so I want to make sure that whatever he's eating, especially if it's on a regular basis is not going to have a negative cumulative effect, meaning like that little bit of exposure to those chemicals on an everyday basis could have really poor health outcomes for him. So that's something that we only buy when it is organic. So strawberry, spinach, kale, collard, and mustard. Actually, collard and mustard were added to kale. And then nectarines, peaches, apples, even if we peel them, they still retain those residues. So better to get apples that are organic, ideally depending on where you live. If you can find them locally, that would be amazing. We don't really want to be getting, apples from China that have been stored for 6 months before they have come to our table. How about that? Can you imagine traveling that long and then sitting in a gas chamber for...
Oh no.
So then we're looking at cherries, pears, the bell peppers, as I mentioned, celery, and tomatoes. So those are the top 12 that we really want to focus on getting organic. And then we can also think about, even in recipes, if we need to replace them. So for example, with kale, we might be able to replace them with cabbage. Or for celery, if we can't find it organic, maybe we're able to replace it with radishes, something that also has a crunch and that can be used in that way. So what else? So the Clean 15, those are the ones that had the least toxic residue. So something like, I think 8% of those actually had some residue, but that's really low, right? And it's really exciting to know that there's some food out there that's still pretty clean, even if it's grown in conventional methods. And so avocados are number one.
Yeah.
And then we have sweet corn, surprisingly. So we're not talking, GMO, like the BT corn that's growing for feed and for processed products and for corn syrup, etc. But this is just the fresh corn for eating. Pineapple. So again, if you're not eating the strawberries, if you have to replace them in a recipe because you can't find them organic, and you can even actually look for frozen berries. If your store ever has a sale on organic frozen berries, get them because they'll be really good too.
Yeah, berries and pineapple are good friends of mine, and we make great smoothies together.
That's right. Yum. I'm actually getting hungry already.
Me too. I'm always hungry.
So kiwi, pineapple, what else? And the melons, honeydew and cantaloupe, those can be great substitutions for if you're just finding them conventionally. What else? What else were we going to talk about?
Well, I was curious about things other than fruits and vegetables that we might be kind of talking about in the same way.
Okay, good. Let's do that. And one more thing that I think did I say this? I might have not said it. Grapes and wine. Did I talk about wine?
No, you didn't.
So wine and beer, like all of these beverages have been tested as well. And wine especially has pretty high concentrations of glyphosate as well. So another thing that's important, if it's something you do on a regular basis and you're imbibing in a glass of red wine, for example, for its other benefits, make sure it's clean wine and that it's organic. There's a company called Dry Farm Wines. They test all their wines and they make sure that their wines don't have any sugar added, which is actually something people in this industry do. But that they're also free of glyphosate and some other toxins. So watch out for the grapes and then for the wine as well. And beyond these fruits and vegetables that you can get in your little list from the EWG, we want to look at grains, beans, and animal products, and also coffee. Coffee can be a very heavily sprayed crop, and coffee is actually a fatty bean. There's like this amazing oil that we then are getting all the benefits from. Well, that coffee, if it has been heavily sprayed, we're going to end up getting some of those residues. So organic coffee, again, if it's something you do every day, safer to do it from an organic source. And then I said animal products, grains, beans, right? And nuts, almonds. So many of my clients might switch to a lot of almond-based products because maybe they're avoiding wheat, for example. But if all those products all of a sudden are really heavy on almonds and the almonds are conventional, they might be exposing themselves to more of these unfortunate toxins. So, almonds are the main nut that is important to look for organic. The least concerned ones are cashews and pistachios.
Okay.
Okay. And grains and beans, so chickpeas especially, and as far as the grains go, wheat and oats. Oats are an amazing grain. Many cultures use some form of porridge, oatmeal, right? It's been linked to longevity in a lot of the blue zones. But unfortunately, we have changed the way we grow these grains a lot, especially in this country, and they can be really high in toxic residue. Again, I'm talking about glyphosate, but that's not the only one. So please look for organic oats and organic wheat because wheat and oats tend to be sprayed right before harvest, which means that that toxic residue is even higher when we are getting ready to eat them.
Oh, yeesh.
Yeah, because they desiccate the plants and they make it a bit of a quicker and easier harvest process. And but it's not easier for our bodies, right? It's easier for the industry. It's not easier for us.
I know
So
I'm smiling right now, but it's an uncomfortable smile.
I know it's kind of an uncomfortable topic, but there's a lot we can do. We can search for quality, 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 even if that means maybe a little bit less quantity, and then understanding what the clean ones are so that we can then maybe, like I said, replace them, substitute them in some recipes, or just focus on getting more of those foods in our diet and less of the ones that might be exposing us to some of these toxins.
So, hey, I know we're short on time, and before we go, can you talk a little about cheese because it just makes me think about other foods that I really like that go well with me, and cheese and I go really well. We go way back, and I'm just wondering, could you tell me a little bit about dairy?
Yes, thank you. So that brings us to the last point here, which was animal products and fats, toxins. Oh my goodness, are you okay?
Yep, I just was daydreaming about cheese.
So, um, toxins accumulate in fats. And so that's true. Our body will do this, right? If we're exposed to a lot of these toxins, the wisdom of the body is to protect the organs and to maintain balance. And so we create fat cells so we can store those toxins in the fat cells. So the same thing happens in animals. And so if they're exposed to a lot of toxins, they'll be storing them in fat. And so then if we eat that fat, guess what?
It goes into us.
Yes.
Eee.
So if you are drinking conventional milk, for example, then maybe having the fat-free milk is a better option for you. If you can have organic and even grass-fed milk, I still think that a whole milk is a better food. It's whole, number one, it's less processed, and it has more of the nutrients that kind of work synergistically for our bodies to be able to process them. So for cheese, if somebody knows that they are not sensitive to cheese, especially in the winter, cheese is not great. Like all the dairy is not really great for kids and adults alike if they're experiencing a lot of allergies, a lot of mucus production, because dairy can be mucus forming. So it's important to know that. But if somebody knows, like I do really well with cheese and I love cheese, well, by all means, continue to eat cheese. Look for some like goat varieties, maybe local cheese if you have access to that where you live. And then on top of all of that, looking for organic cheese would be even better. Organic and raw potentially are really the highest quality. And so you can kind of mix and match and see how you're doing there. And then other animal products, so meat itself, getting more lean cuts, and then really looking for eggs that are pasture raised. And eggs are such an amazing food, and they tend to be one of the foods that are in the higher trigger foods for allergies or just sensitivities. And I really believe that part of that is the way that unfortunately a lot of these eggs are coming to, where the hens are exposed to a lot of toxins and are fed a diet heavy in soy and corn and things like that. So when we are eating eggs that are pasture raised, where the hens are actually, in grass and they're foraging for bugs and they're getting a really healthy feed to supplement, then the quality of that egg will be so different. And you can see in the yolk that it will be so orange. And eggs can be really a complete food. They have so many nutrients in the yolk, and then the protein in the egg whites. So, as for cheese, I want to
Yes.
go back to that because why don't we talk next week about dairy so we can actually dig a little deeper around what is this mucus forming situation
Yeah.
and what are the healthiest types of dairy, and then we can also talk about some alternatives like how to make nut milk or oat milk at home, for example, when we want to have that milky quality but might be avoiding dairy. How does that sound?
Sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like anticipation.
All right. Well, thank you for being here, and we'll see you next week, and we'll talk a little bit more about dairy.
Bye. I'm gonna go get some cheese now.